Welcome to another episode of Tekkel Live. A wonderful Thursday evening, beautiful weather in the Western Cape. So, good evening to you, everybody, all over South Africa, all over the world, and a good evening to my co-presenter, Alberic.
How's it, Danny? Yes, another week of catching up to do. Yeah, guys, thanks for joining us. Big shout out is one or two viewers out in the UK also texted me today to say how's it. So yeah, guys, welcome. Thanks for being with us. But yeah, excited to go through tonight's show. There's quite a bit to chat about. But yeah, excited to be here.
Guys, we are here. We've got a condensed, really condensed show. We've got a few expert analysis from a few experts coming in on the various topics. So let's see what we can squeeze into this half an hour. But like always, we start off the show with some banter and some proper banter, and that was Super Rugby Unlocked. Again, we had a few proper games. We saw a few big teams winning for this time around. And it was the Sharks obviously beating the Pumas. The Stormers this time came good against the Griquas, and then narrowly, but what a game it was between the Lions and the Bulls. And the Bulls proving to be slightly better, Alberic. It was a game that really entertained us.
Yeah, ek is happy with the Sharks, man. From all the fixtures, we're happy. Ja, kyk, ons gaan mekaar heel dag terge oor, maar yeah, another good weekend of great rugby. From all the teams, I think the rust is really coming off. We spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, the last couple of weeks. The fact that the players are back into the swing of things. So yeah, it's good to see some nice running rugby. Young players coming through the ranks. Guys putting up their hands. And it's great to see. And but yeah, let's run through the actual score sheets from the results from the last weekend. The Sharks winning against the Cheetahs, 19-13. Tight game, but it came down to some great work at the end there from the Sharks. A lot of people moaned about the fact that it wasn't a great spectacle in the beginning, but a win is a win, and as ugly as it counts at the end of the day. And then obviously the Griquas losing to the Stormers at home. We expected that. We expected that. But yeah, also, I mean, the way the Stormers played, fantastic. We'll touch on that in a second. And then also, the Lions, running just short on the Bulls at home. But the Bulls, just another class performance from them once again.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the Sharks and the Cheetahs game really it turned into a kicking fest. We expected a little bit more, but really it didn't produce the goods. But I just want to zoom into Warwick Galan's performance against the Griquas. Yes, it's the Griquas, it's in Kimberley, but we're seeing the best of Warwick in Cape Town. He just slots in very, very well. It seems to me he fits the mold of the Stormers brand. And the Stormers obviously met Rickens Twitter die laaste paar weke gespeel, but Warwick Galan is really producing the goods as a fullback, and surely now he is really in the run to become one of the Springbok contenders in the fullback position.
No, for sure. The way you mentioned the word slotted, and that's aptly said. The fact that he slotted into the backline on attack was phenomenal. The way he glided through, the defense, and made some telling passes, man. That was really, really great to see. And also just bodes well for us, looking at the green and gold playing next year again, and you definitely be one of the front runners and maybe even challenge Willie on fullback. But yeah. Fantastic game, deserved man of the match on that occasion.
Yeah, no, for sure. And obviously these results that they had a detrimental effect on the log. So we will just have a sneak peek on the log quickly. Obviously the Bulls sitting comfortably in the lead there on 19 points. The Stormers, obviously with the outside chance still of trumping the Bulls, it's a very slight chance, hoping that the Bulls will somewhere that their wheels will come off. And obviously the Bulls hitting their stride now. We've seen against the Lions game that they actually they were run close, but good teams produce results, and the Bulls, although it was close, they produced the goods against the Lions, and then the Sharks, they're sitting comfortably in the third position. So it seems to me it's going to be a run in between the Bulls, the Stormers, and the Sharks, with the Bulls obviously being the outright favorite to take this competition.
Exactly. If you look at the way the Bulls sit at the moment, I think if they win, I think the next game is against the Pumas, if I'm not mistaken. And if they do win that game, they'll be with the bonus point. They will take the tournament. So yeah, it will definitely be especially if you look at the last game of the round robin, which is the Stormers versus the Sharks. That game was also telling because it will be 2 versus 1, and depending on what happens with the Bulls and Pumas, whoever wins that game could potentially go to the top of the log. It's a far shot, long shot at least, but stranger things have happened before. So be exciting weekend.
Hard luck to the Cheetahs, Dave, because of that. Obviously, that game that was obviously ruled as a draw between the Lions. So they only got 2 points, and obviously the Cheetah supporters going here. But if we got the result there, we would have probably been in the running. That is on the assumption that they would have beaten the Lions. But it's a tough one. That's the rules of the competition. It's tough on them. But it seems to be that result would be the telling blow for the Cheetahs. They might just end up one short.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a real shame that game didn't play off. It was looking forward to a great game of running rugby, because between those two teams you always expect the ball to be flung around. But yeah, a pity that it came down to that, and obviously it tells at the end of the day, if you look at the log, it does definitely count.
No, for sure. So we will have a brief chat now about the fixtures, and I think that is where the viewers will come in now. We've got mouth-watering fixtures, and I want that is a one that we believe the Griquas need to win this one for confidence. They miraculously lost against the Pumas at home, and then obviously this weekend again, they were absolutely, I would say, dismantled against an attack of the Stormers. We know the Stormers is a very good side, but if we talk about confidence, the Griquas will be very low in confidence. Playing a Shark side that came into their stride now again. It's going to be difficult, even at Kimberley, Alberic. It's going to be very, very difficult for the Griquas to get the result here.
No, for sure. The Sharks look like they're eating their straps. They are, they're gelling better than in the beginning of the season. But with that said, it's a kind of watershed moment, for the Sharks itself. For them to win in Kimberley, it's always a big moment. It's a big factor for the rest of the tournament, at least. So for them to put a stamp on, especially with the game against the Stormers, for them to beat the Griquas, they'll definitely go with some momentum, into that game against the Stormers.
Yeah, and then guys, there you have it. The rest of the fixtures obviously be the Lions taking on the Pumas. We obviously tipping the Lions there to beat the Pumas, and then the big one, the last game of the weekend, the Stormers playing the Cheetahs, and we'll have a brief chat about that now. We've got a proper Stormers side now in their stride, playing a Cheetah side. There's a lot of doubt now with Frans Steyn. Obviously, is he available? Is he not available? So yeah, it's going to be an interesting game between the Stormers and the Cheetahs.
No, exactly. I would have liked to have said a pack Newlands for that one, but unfortunately it won't be. But look, Stormers Cheetahs game has always been. Cheetahs have had the knack of pulling one over the Stormers at home. Who can ever forget Willem de Waal? Back in, I think it was the early 2000s, taking us out to the semi-final. So the Cheetahs, no matter where they play, they'll always have something to bring to the party. So I'm sure the Stormers won't take them lightly in that game.
So there you have it, guys. The fixtures for the Super Rugby Unlocked for this weekend. Like we say, we have the Sharks up to beat the Griquas. We have the Lions up to beat the Pumas, and then obviously the big game, the Stormers versus the Cheetahs. We're very divided, and therefore we got in an expert. Renowned journalist John Goliath of IOL, previously of Kwese Sport. We got him in to just give his overview, but also his predictions for the big game, the Stormers versus the Cheetahs. Let's have a look and a listen. John, obviously being a Stormers supporter, but let's hear what he has to say.
Goeienaand aan die mense van Tekkel. Dankie aan Hein vir die geleentheid om 'n bietjie oor die Cheetahs en die Stormers te praat. Ek dink is 'n game wat altyd goeie rugby op dis in terme van, ek dink die ouens hardloop bietjie meer in die game, meer as enige ander fixture wat jy aan kan dink. Ek dink veral die Cheetahs is ouens wat hulle hou van rugby speel. En die Stormers het ons gesien laas naweek, hulle het 'n bietjie begin rugby speel, veral na die nederlaag teen die Bulle. Ek dink die Stormers was 'n bietjie die laaste paar, miskien aan die begin van die seisoen, stuck between game plans, soos hulle sal sê. Hulle het nie geweet regtig is hulle 'n span wat net voorspeel nie, is hulle span wat miskien te vinnig wyd gaan of net wyd wil speel. Ek dink in Griekwas het ons gesien as 'n bietjie van 'n balans. Die balans is actually nie 'n lekker woord, want ek hou self nie van hy woord van balans nie. Maar ek dink hulle het in alle fasette beter gespeel en dit het hulle game beter gemaak. So hulle was voor baie goed, hulle het die lynstaande gedomineer en agter toe slaan hulle hard met Warwick geland, wat ek dink is 'n fantastiese speler, het hy weer gewys oor die laaste tyd, veral omdat die Stormers hom nou meer in die game bring en meer sy spelskepping vermoë in die game bring. Daai vir my is baie goed. Van jou playmakers voel ek altyd moet hulle hande op die bal kry. Jou beste speler in die span moet altyd die bal in sy hand hê, van hy maak die beste besluite. En dis waarom ek dink die Cheetahs miskien gaan sukkel die naweek. Hulle het al klaar vir Rowan Pienaar wat nie beskikbaar is nie. Nou is Frans Steyn ook 'n doubt met 'n liesbesering. En hy is hulle beste speler en spelskepper en oor die spel baie goed lees. So ek dink dit kan miskien die verskil wees tussen die twee spanne die naweek. So ek gaan vir die Stormers wen en 'n goeie game rugby.
Great. I knew he was going to put the Stormers in this game. John obviously, yeah. John, expert and obviously renowned and experienced sport journalist. He touched on Warwick Geland. Derek, what a performance! And it's not only about the performance against Griquas. We've really seen Warwick Geland that we knew at age group level. He came to life after joining the Stormers. He's on the ball. He's playing first receiver, second receiver. This guy is really playing proper rugby.
Yeah, he brings solidity to the back, to the back three. Over the years we've had some great fullbacks, but he brings that kind of that solidity, but also finesse. Him slotting into line is, this last weekend was something, phenomenal to see. So, really, really excited to see what he can do with the rest of the tournament. We only have a couple of weeks left. But yeah, what a great player. But I just want to touch on what John just said about balancing. He said he didn't like the word balance or balance. But, over the couple of years, in the last, probably 10 years of Stormers rugby, we've always had a shift. In fact, maybe Western Province rugby, the fact that would be very, forward dominated in the sense that we have a great back, but our backline didn't match that. But then you look at, some other years you would have a great backline and the back didn't always match that. So, maybe balance isn't a bad thing at all. I think it's bringing that, the best of both, which will bring a more kind of overall, complete game plan. So yeah, that definitely worked out, this weekend against the Griquas. Okay. How to work against the Cheetahs, we have to wait and see.
A proper competitor in the Cheetahs. They are facing a proper competitor against the Cheetahs. I believe the Stormers will look to, like John is saying, consolidate the game. They would want to win their lineouts. They would want to win their scrums and obviously set the foundation for Damian Willems and the boys to obviously get go forward. If they do try and speed up the game against the Cheetahs, and we've seen over the years in the Currie Cup and also in the Super Rugby, the Cheetahs versus the Western Province or the Cheetahs versus the Stormers, it's always been a spectacle. But the Cheetahs, with ball in hand, they can really hurt you. So if you speed up the game and you don't do your basic well, the Stormers can be in for a long evening. I expect Franz Stein, if he's fit, obviously to really carry the ball very hard in Channel 1. And then if they do get forward ball, the back three of Clayton Blommetjies, Malcolm Jaar and Roscoe Speckman, they can tear you apart. Very dangerous. So you would have to look at the Stormers and say, you know what, let's kick for the corners. Let's consolidate. Let's win our line out. Let's start mauling them with Bongi Banambi, Salman Murad, JD Sikkeling. Start putting the Stormers into good positions, and then obviously milk the Cheetahs. But if you're going to make the game loose, whether we're playing at Newlands or at Bloemfontein, and this time it's Cape Town, it's going to be a good evening. We're expecting good weather. The Cheetahs remains a very dangerous side if you don't do your basics well.
No, exactly, and that's exactly, to your point, is if it is going to be an open game and a running game, then it will give the likes of Roscoe them, that freedom to run and to jolt, so let's say. And we don't want that. I think the Stormers have to lock them down and make sure that their forwards do dominate the game. But on the flip side of the coin, look at the Cheetahs. With every game they've played this season, that they always felt like they had a point to prove. Never mind what's been happening with regards to their future in Super Rugby, but they've always had a point to prove, and this game will be no different. And I definitely think they'll definitely throw it around. And what else to lose? I mean, a Cheetah in that position is always dangerous.
I'm picking the Cheetahs for a win by about 5 points. Just going to differ slightly there with John. Close game, but I think the Cheetahs to come good in Cape Town, beating the Stormers in their home ground with 5 points, Alberich.
As a pity these live, I mean, it's going to be that uit-edit. So, this is
speaking of
comment coming through. Sorry, I need a comment coming through from Kyle Live. Stormers played proper rugby. Ball going through hands in backline. I haven't seen that since Nakalavuki was there. Kyle, seriously.
Yeah, no.
Nakalavuki. It went through his hands. Literally, he didn't catch it. It went through his hands, actually.
So I think that is what the ball going through hands in the backline. But a good comment from Kyle. I think it's important, irrespective if you're playing Griquas in Kimberley. The mental. Remember, they come from a very poor performance. These guys, they read the newspapers. They're on social media. People are telling them, "Hey, het julle dalk 'n ander sport of 'n ander talent and you're playing very poorly." It's good for the confidence, especially leading up to a game that will actually be a telling game if they want to stay in the running, Alberich. But speaking of the Griquas in Kimberley, the Griquas we mentioned earlier, they have the Sharks and they're facing the Sharks. But early today we chatted with their outside centre, Alan Klaassen. Obviously, he played in France earlier this year. He moved to the Griquas just after the COVID regulations were relaxed. He came into Kimberley. This gentleman played a few games for the Western Province, but all the way from a beautiful town called Abbotsdale. He's chatting with us. Obviously, earlier today, he was chatting with us and gave his predictions for the Griquas side against the Sharks. But also spoke to us about his experience in France and just sharing some insight with regards to being a professional rugby player abroad. Let's just have a listen to Alan.
Goeienaand allemaal en familie en vrienden van MSDL. Mijn naam is Alan Klaassen. Ik heb onlangs teruggekeerd uit Frans uit, waar ik eigenlijk bij de Griquas is. So ek wil 'n bietjie chat oor hoe ek ervaring was in Frans. Vir my persoonlik was dit 'n baie groot aanpassing veral soos die weeromstandighede daar in Frans en die gamespel. Vir my, ek as 'n speler is gewoond aan hou van hardloop rugby, want dit is een van my sterkpunte. En die gameplan in Frans of die span waar ek gespeel het, die omstandighede laat nie toe dat jy sommer hardloop rugby kan speel nie. So hulle verkies meestal line-outs toe, skopale toe, mol, drywe, so dat het my sterkpunt het weggevat. En vir my as 'n persoon moes ek 'n mental switch maak en by hulle gameplan adapt sodat ek kan invit by die span. So dit was my baie moeilik, val die weer, soos ek was nie gewoond aan 8 uur die oggend is in -4 grade nie, en gewoonlik soos jy wil net lê, jy wil nie opstaan nie. So vir my het dit weer karakter uit my uitgebring waarin ek nie gewoon was nie, of nie voorheen nog ooit getoets het nie. So dit is vir my as 'n persoon wat groei, die tydjie waar ek in Frans was. En ek het onlangs nou by Griekwas aangesluit, en die rugby hier is die Super Rugby Unlocked, waar dit die eerste keer is wat ek Super Rugby speel, moes ek weer toe 'n mental switch maak, waar rugby weer vinnig is, waar ek weer vir tyd lang gewoon was om stadige rugby te speel. Super Rugby, dit is eerstens 'n voorreg om dit te kan speel, waar ek elke week in Springbokke speel, waar nie almal daai geleentheid het nie. Dis baie lekker vir my en excitement, want dit is my sterkpunt soos hardloop rugby. So ek geniet elke oomblik van dit om weer te kan hardloop rugby te kan speel. Ek voel nog daar's al 'n paar manne of 'n paar spanne wat 'n bietjie geroes is vir ons span self. Maar ek dink ons gaan beter raak, en veral waar ons 'n naweekie Saaks invat, waar ek weer 'n voorreg het om die Springbokke te kan speel, so Skouenbos en Kosi, waar ons hulle speel. Ek voel net ons span, ons sukkel 'n bietjie, waar ons 'n standaard gestel het in die Blou Bulle, waar ons onsself teleurgestel het, maar hierdie week kan ek voel daar's 'n ander vibe in ons span. Die boys wil regtig soos hulle beste bring, en ek voel ons het baie individuals wat baie goed is. Ons klik net nog nie lekker nie, maar ek glo aan met tyd gaan dit kom waar ons baie nuwe spelers in die span is. Kan ons hierdie naweek 'n sukses maak van die aand. Maak nie saak wat die einde resultaat is nie, maar ek weet die boys of ons is reg vir die naweek se game, en dat ons beste gaan gee. Lekker aan.
Awesome input. Yeah, Barry, a proper outside center. I think he can play a bit of wing, he can play a bit of fullback, but obviously he shared his insight about his stint in France, different conditions. But he's back in Griquas. I think he's a really good prospect. I'm hoping to see more of him, and maybe some more at the bigger union. I really hope that some of the bigger unions looks at players like Haaland, but also Berger, the scrum half at Griquas, really players that I think belong at the bigger unions.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at over the years, the way the Griquas and the Cheetahs have always fed the bigger teams. With the playing, can we bring Boland into the mix as well? Is all these youngsters that are so talented that they get recognized overseas, and it's sad to see that they get chance overseas, and then after they've been overseas they get sight on this side. So yeah, there's a lot of talent on our backyard, and it's great to see players like Holland, youngsters coming through and really putting their hand up and playing some fantastic rugby. And yeah, die man is van die Swartland, so yes, hy is om die draai. Ons moet vir John Dobson op die lyn kry eintlik.
For John op die lyn moet kry. For those of you that is perhaps unsure about Haaland Klaasen, if taking you 2 years back, 3 years back perhaps, under Dion Davids, Haaland Klaasen and Burton Klaasen, along with Makazolo Banda, they really played a pivotal role in the Southern Kings being sustainable but also competitive. If you think about the Super Rugby that they played against, but also the Pro 14, those guys having to go over, and Haaland now touched on the conditions when he played in France. We as viewers, we don't experience those -2-3 degrees. Yeah. And in the Pro 14, if you can recall, the Kings had to go and play in the Pro 14 with the Cheetahs. Those were the conditions that our players were exposed to. We were not used to those conditions, yeah. And still somehow Dion and the Southern Kings specifically managed to get the results. Yeah. So surely there must be some raw talent, and obviously if we keep on exposing these players to top-notch competitions, whether it's the Currie Cup, Super Rugby, Pro 14, or even if we do move to Europe where we would play in the Heineken Cup, the French Top 14, these players can only become better and better.
No, exactly, and it definitely did help out. And you mentioned this, the Kings as well. It's really sad to see, those actually are feeding grounds, for the whether it's for their own unions, and we hope one day that the Kings and can be the team of old and get the the recognition they deserve. But yeah, it's just sad to see how it's panned out. I mean, yeah. The players have got some phenomenal experience behind their back, playing those conditions. And then coming back and then making a difference here. I mean the fact that Holland has played now in -4 degrees and speel je op 'n klipbare veld in Kimberley. I mean, that's some fantastic experience to add to your name. So yeah, it's great to see. It's a pity that, like I said, the Kings, looking at what's been going on, it's a pity to see how it's turned out. But yeah, we hope for the best. And seeing that young players coming through and getting the chance, they might be able to play for the Bulls, in their first season or second season. But they can definitely show their mettle in a Griquas side or in the Cheetah side or in the King side, for example. So
no, for sure.
So, yeah.
Watch out for Harlan Klaasen tomorrow evening wearing the number 13 jumper against the Sharks. We will be rooting for him, although he's playing against the Sharks. I hope they lose, but obviously we will be rooting for Harlan and hoping that that obviously he performs very, very well. So thanks so much, Harlan, for that expert input. For the All Black supporters online, I can see some of them just greeting us, saying good evening on our social media feed. To the All Black supporters online, you need to look away now. We're going to just zoom into the Super Rugby Unlock and the Tri-Nations. Obviously, sorry, the Rugby Champs. Now that the Tri-Nations, the Wallabies bouncing back, beating the All Blacks 24 points to 22. Beric, controversy, but there we have it. There's the result. So All Black supporters, jump online. Ons gaan later praat oor die rooi kaarte. Daai is die result. It was 14 man in 14 man. In my opinie 'n ref wat plek 'n bietjie misgetas het, maar wanneer dit kom by die penalties met die rooi kaarte, Alberic, I think he got it spot on.
Yeah, the rules is clear. Once a shoulder to the head is a red card. So I mean, I've been watching a few shows online and discussions and how people have pundits have obviously analyzed that incident, and there's a lot of, it's 50-50. It's been very polarized as to what the opinions are on the matter. But at the end of the day, it does spoil the game. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in a second. When it comes to red cards, but there has to be some rules that has to be put in place. You don't want players going left and right and playing recklessly and endangering other players. Safety is, at the end of the day, is what's key. If we're having players off for a couple of months, that doesn't only hurt the viewer not being able to see their best players, but it hurts that player's pocket as well. They're not going to be able to earn an income, or they're going to be suffering from either no game time, and that could impact their career. So yeah, somewhere along the line, the rules have to be set and adhered to.
For those of you who've missed the game, we had very early in the match, we had a red card, obviously issued to the New Zealand team, which left them 14 men on the field, and then all of a sudden I thought, well, wait a minute, the Aussies obviously they have a serious chance of exploiting that, and soon after that we saw a Australian team, the flanker of Australia, obviously transgressing there, got a red card, and all of a sudden the playing field it was leveled out again. But like Alberic said, a lot of talk about, was it the right decision? Was the player not ducking into the tackle? Isn't the rugby becoming soft? There was a lot of debate, Alberic, but obviously we believe that the player's safety must come first.
No, exactly. That's rule number one, and everything else falls after that. I think I saw even John Kerwin on one of the New Zealand rugby shows, saying that they should take away the red card. And yes, there's people paying money to watch the game, and coming to traveling far and watching the game from wherever across the world, making time to watch their best or the teams play against each other, and they expect to have the best 15 against the next best 15. But a red card does spoil the game. But how else would you be able to look after players? We're looking at the long-term longevity of a player and making sure that they'll be able to play the next 20, 30 games, without the injury. But yeah, it's been, from my point of view, the red card has to stay. These mitigating factors always, in such situations. But yeah, it's a red card. I mean, how else would you put it?
The police it. So I've got an opinion. Barrick has an opinion. John Kerwin's got his opinion. the New Zealand players got a lot of
Yeah.
opinions, the supporters and Australian supporters. But we caught up earlier today with a gentleman that this player was left paralyzed because of a freak incident on the rugby field. It involved a tackle that was slightly high, and we had a chat with Furlo Theron. Obviously, he was part of the show earlier, a fond listener of the show, but. Let's have a listen. Furlow says some insight because he was directly affected by a tackle that was slightly high, which left him paralyzed. And here's Furlow and his opinion with regards to making rugby safer for players.
Hi, Heine and Alberic, and to all the viewers. Thanks again for having me. To me, it is simple. I think there's nothing wrong with the law, but it's just the referees that must apply the law. For me, it is black and white. If the tackle hits the player's head, it must be red carded. Yes, it spoils the game and it takes away the competitiveness, but the consequences can be dire. For instance, what happened to me? Yes, a freak accident happened to me on the rugby field that left me paralyzed. But I still think that the referees are not applying the rule, but they are referring the result. If they see the play is fine and standing up, they're always looking for mitigating circumstances, which is not actually true. Simple fact for me is if the shoulder hits the head or any part of the body hits the head, it's a red card. Whether it was accidental or intentional, unfortunately that it is true. Unfortunately, the player must face the consequences because it could change the other players' lives, unfortunately for the worse. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's some wise words.
No, for sure. So for young aspiring rugby players, professional rugby players, club rugby players, try and respect the opponent. Suck for the tackle. Try and make the tackle as low as possible. I know with the modern game, especially on professional level, we are coached to hit where the ball is to try and obviously mitigate the offload. Hit the guy below the shoulders. It's not a lot to ask, and a lot of people say, I need, there's adrenaline rush, and there's a lot of factors that would impact where I hit the player. Yes, if the player obviously falls across his feet or ducks Alberic, that's mitigation. But if the player stays upright and you hit the player above the shoulders, non-negotiable, red. Thank you.
No questions there, and that's exactly it. It comes down to technique at the end of the day. I mean, for years we went through phases, whether it was the up and under, and guys' legs being taken out. That was a phase we went through. Whether it was the tip tackle, the rules were set and it was made and it was clear. Players, became accustomed to not. The minute you see a guy being tipped over the 90 degrees, right, you're looking at the yellow card, and that's clear as day. So players need to adapt and make sure that their technique, reflects that, because at the end of the day, it's you're not only damaging your own career and potentially the play that you've just tackled high, but you're also damaging your team's chances of winning a critical game at that point, perhaps.
Yeah. No, Barrick, and especially we are not saying these things will not happen. We know we played the game ourselves. We know there's issues and things happen in the game. Sometimes accidental, sometimes deliberate. The two incidences that we are referring to, that there's a lot of debate this weekend: New Zealand versus Australia. If you look at the two incidences, and I can see Carl's comment as well. Go and look at the two incidences. The prop of New Zealand hitting that player, it's a straight red card. There's no excuse for him to go lower. He had a lot of time to line up the player. You look at the ruck clean out of Australian rugby player, the flank forward who made his debut. Non-negotiable. Go lower, hit the guy lower. If in the clean out, there's no reason for him to ruck that guy and make contact with him on the head. straight red card, both of them justified. Mr. Ref, you got it right, spot on. Let's see 14 against 14. And if we need to see one-on-one games, if there's no discipline, then we need to see that as well. Players' safety comes first.
Let's take 2 years back. Let's go back 2 years. I mean, we're looking at Andre Esterhuizen. Andre Esterhuizen getting tackled by Owen Farrell. 2018, the final minute of the game between the Boks and England. I mean, that was a critical moment. We could have slotted a kick over and won that game, and we could have kept a brilliant tour. But that in itself, if you look at the rules today and what happened on that night, it would have been a straight red card. I mean, we know the history of Owen Farrell. We know his technique is, not on par where it should be, especially for an international player of his caliber. But again, there's no quibbles when it comes to that.
No arms high.
Totally. I mean, what is Royer as a Roy card, man?
and then you have referees. You have referees with the luxury of watching it again and again.
Yeah.
And then you have 6 eyes, 2 on the field, one in the touch judge, 1 in the TMO. They still manage to get it wrong. It's straightforward. But yeah, guys, that is just our opinion. We thought that we need to come out stronger about this, and hence we asked Furlow to just have a chat with us. But I think, like Kyle is also mentioned on social media, I think we just showed his comment. There should not be a debate. I'm very, very disappointed in Kerwin and all the others trying to defend a straightforward ruling to make sure that the same player that needs to take the field in minute 1 needs to leave the field in the same condition in minute 81 or minute 85.
In a way, you don't want to say I'm glad the fact that there was a red card, but I am glad there was a second red card because it kind of leveled the playing field a lot. I mean, yes, you don't want to see 14 versus 14, but you could have just the fact that the Wallabies have been up against the All Blacks for the last couple of weeks and really haven't been able to show anything besides that draw in that first game. If they had to win this game with 15 men, it would have just put a kind of bittersweet taste in your mouth, as an Aussie fan. But yeah, the playing fields were leveled at the end of the day, and both red cards were deserved.
Were justified.
Were justified at this year, and yeah, that's just how it is. And whether it's international game, whether it's a World Cup final, it is what it is. It happens, and players need to adhere. And look how damaging it was to All Blacks. I mean, the All Blacks really had a fantastic team, and I really thought they would be able to replicate the previous week. Not necessarily the same scoreline, but they'll definitely be able to have won that game, I think. Based on the results of the last couple of weeks. But yeah, it's one of those things. But the All Blacks had to unfortunately just suck it up and carry on.
This weekend they have a chance to redeem themselves. They will play early morning South African time. We get up to watch the Argentines being in action, obviously for the very first time in the Tri-Nations. Springboks are not there. The Argentines get the opportunity to play against the mighty All Blacks. Always tougher playing against the All Blacks after they've lost and slightly been embarrassed because of their discipline. I expect the All Blacks to win and win comfortably.
Yeah, exactly. With the changes they made this past week, you don't see it going any other way. Maar hier sien jy in die agterkop dink jy net kan die Aussies net een keer vir ons wys asseblief. I mean, they was spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. If there's ever time to challenge the All Blacks, it's in this phase now. It's a new coach, a new couple of new faces in the team. Yes, man. Ek gaan blou en wit dra.
No, for sure. We would want the All Blacks to lose, but it's not good for our show because I see there's not a lot of All Black traffic on our social media feed. They're not very happy. They're not very not showing a lot of sportsmanship. But guys, thanks for listening in. Obviously, Alberic, we asked this earlier this week. We wanted to bring some humor in, and we asked the question: Wie laat jou lag? Wie is die snaakste man in jou dorp? Wie is die snaakste man op die braaivuur? We had a few proper replies and then a few videos, but obviously some of them not appropriate to show on our show. But thanks so much. guys, this is the calling. We want to have some comedians. We know
Yes.
there's a lot of comedians. We see WhatsApps coming through on our social media feeds as well, videos. Owens is nogal comical. There was a guy that said, the Pumas are accustomed to win on Friday evenings in front of an empty stadium. Those are the types of banter we want to hear. So we are asking, wie is die snaakste ou in jou dorp? Over the lekker grappie maak. Contact us on our Facebook page, post your details, and we will get you onto the show. Alberic, that is what we want. We want to have a good laugh. It's not only about rugby.
Yes.
Any joke would do.
Ja, kyk, ek ken baie ons almal ken hy snaakse ouma 4 so ons wil graag van hulle hoor. We want to feature them on the show. It's all about giving recognition and we want to give a recognition to those backyard comedians, man. Die ouens wat hierdie stage maak. We had Carl Webb on our show a couple of weeks ago. And he told us what it takes. But there's some guys out there that we haven't heard of, and that's Abbotsdale of us nou Namakoland of us Pretoria, waar ook al. Let us know who they are. We want to get in touch with them. And we want to hear from them.
Nou, maar let me set the tone. Het jy enige gehoor van die insekte wat gespeel het in die wilde diere?
Okay.
Kyk, die insekte speel in die wilde diere game rugby in die eerste helfte. Obviously, die insekte is mos nou 'n bietjie kleiner en hulle besluit hulle gaan hulle agterlyn gebruik om die wilde diere aan te vat, maar die wilde diere het meer balbesit gehad. Dus het nou 'n leeu op binne senter in 'n kameelperd op slot en hulle dit balbesit en 'n renoster kom oor die voordeellyn en die insekte sukkel, man. Spinnekop kan nie tackle nie en ladybird sukkel en ou vlieg op heel agter hy vang alles mis en hier rustyd is die insekte ver agter teen die wilde diere. En die coach van die insekte sê, luister boys, ons gaan 'n paar changes maak kort na rustyd. Ons gaan moet changes maak, anders kan die telkaart nou baie swak lyk. En net die kort na rustyd bring die coach vir Duisendpoot op. Maar Alberic, ou Duisendpoot vat veld. Hy speel loskakel, hy skop lyn toe, hy skop pale toe, dis punte. Hy laat loop die agterlyn. Hy breek. Hy gaan na so op 'n tyd tussen Hyena en Luiper deur dat hulle nou nog wonder is Duisendpoot links verby of is Duisendpoot regs verby. En Duisendpoot bring sy voorspelers in die ou kakkerlak kom in die spel op nommer 8. En Duisendpoot rol dit die ding. En hier op die einde kry hulle 'n strafskop uit die hoek uit. En die insekte is met 2 punte agter as Duisendpoot die 'n oorskop. Dan wen hulle, hy kyk so 'n paar keer, hy stel die bal en hy skop op oor en is oor en die insekte wen met 'n punt. Nou gaan hulle in die kleedkamer en toe sê die kaptein. Die kaptein daai tyd is nou Muskiet sê manne, ons het gesukkel in die eerste helfte. Maar die tweede helfte. Coach, ek wil nou net vra, waar was Duisendpoot die eerste helfte gewees? Hoekom moet hy die tweede helfte kom? Duisendpoot, waar was jy? In die eerste helfte, hy sê, nee man, ek is nou jammer dat ek die tweede helfte kon speel, dat ek het die hele eerste helfte gesukkel om al my toks aan te trek. Het sal seker baie lank vat om 1000 toks aan te trek, maar nou ja, hy het op die veld gekom, maar guys, dis die tipe grappies wat ons wil hê. Ek weet
Yes, please, guys. Yes, no, exactly. That's exactly what we want to hear, guys. Kyk, ek weet daar's baie mense daar buite wat miljoene jokes het. So asseblief, ons wil van julle hoor, man.
Wie is die snaakste oor die dorp? Stuur julle grappies nou aan ons toe, guys.
Ek moet dit bysê ook nou. Ek het we had a very interesting email we got this week from one of our female viewers asking about, because we had Elton Landry on our show a couple of weeks ago. The actor from Aardensplay. He played the character Steve Mortlock. En die vrou wil geweet het wanneer kry ons Aardensplay weer op die show? Wanneer kry ons hy mense weer op die show? En sy wil graag geweet het van Farah. Kan nie so Farah op die show kry nie, maar soos ek hoor, as Farah nie the most favorite here, and I don't want our viewers to plummet on the show. So yeah, guys, we will try to her. Look, we will try to get her on the show. But yeah, thanks for the email. We really loved it, man.
Ons kan probeer om 'n rugby game te reël one-on-one tussen haar en my Moena en kyk wie uit die beste uitkom one-on-one.
Ja, en exactly, en wie's op my Moena se kant, en ek is seker as 'n hele paar mense op my Moena se kant. So yeah, guys, thanks a lot. Really love the feedback.
Sure. So guys, check out our Facebook page. This question will remain on our Facebook page and our Twitter page. Stuur die details. Ons gaan praat direk met hy aspiring comedian en ons wil jou op die show hê. Ja, Perry, 45 minutes has flown by, but it was a great chat again. We had interesting guests at the end of another episode.
Yeah, it's great to be always lekker to engage with our viewers and just get a rundown of what's been happening in the week world of sport. And yeah, guys, please drop us a line with any other comments that or any other feedback that we might have missed, or any other topics that we might have missed. Let us know. We'll bring it to the fore.
No, for sure. If you want to talk English Premier League, we will talk about that. Obviously, IPL coming to an end, the Mumbai Indians walking away with another title. Any topics that you think, obviously rugby is being the hot topic and Tekkel is obviously zooming into that, but we would want to have some diverse topics. If you want to feature on the show with some expert analysis, let us know. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Very groete daar in Kuilsrivier in die brode Cape Town. Ek stuur groete hier al die pad uit 'n wonderlike Swartland uit @Tekkel Chat on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, guys. Ciao.
Go Stormers.